From pop culture to politics, this is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth, a great day when President Trump has received a great honor. There is a new institution, a federal institution, a government institution that is being named after him. They've actually put up his name on the building. What institution is it? It's the former Institute of Peace. It now will be the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. Okay, what's this all about, especially given the fact that President Trump at one point wanted to abolish the Institute of Peace? We will get to that coming up on the Medved Show. But meanwhile, there is continued news concerning the FBI's announcement earlier today that they had arrested a suspect in the 2021 case of mysterious pipe bombs that were planted outside the Republican and Democratic Party national headquarters the night before the attack on the Capitol building on January 6, 2021, by people who wanted to overturn the results of the election that Donald Trump had just lost and that Joe Biden had just won. He has been identified, the perpetrator or the suspect has been identified as Brian Cole Jr. From Northern Virginia, and he's been charged with the use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing, said the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who clearly is relieved to have some of the pressure off of her with the Epstein deadline, the Jeffrey Epstein files deadline approaching just 2 weeks from now. She'd much rather talk about catching this suspect who has been looked for. They had a $500,000 reward for people giving any information. This investigation is ongoing, said the Attorney General Bondi. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. The Attorney General spoke this way earlier this morning. Clip 25.
Early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully.
One of the questions that is raised here is if the individual, as the indications seem to be, is someone who was affiliated in some way with the general sentiment of the demonstrators who were gathered in Washington on January 6th, the people who stormed the Capitol the next day, the day after he planted these working pipe bombs, would President Trump pardon him? Is that too early? I mean, he's pardoned, it's 1,500 people who were involved with storming the Capitol building. And again, it's a strange situation, given the fact that President Trump has said that everything that was going on January 6th, well, I guess it's tough to view the planting of pipe bombs at both party headquarters as an act of peace and patriotism and love and devotion, which President Trump has imputed to most of the other individuals who were involved in the actual violence on that very dark day. He never did set off the bombs, so pardon in prospect. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, offered praise for FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino for their role in apprehending and identifying this suspect. This is the Attorney General once more from earlier this morning, Pam Bondi.
The total lack of movement on this case in our nation's capital undermined the public trust of our enforcement agencies. This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. The FBI, along with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our prosecutors, have worked tirelessly for months, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI with the Biden administration for 4 long years. Let me be clear, there was no new tip, there was no new witness, just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work, working as a team along with ATF, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and of course, the FBI. We are working every day to restore the public's trust. We hope that today is a significant step towards that progress.
This is an amazing position for her to take. She basically is trying to do something that the Trump administration has specialized in from the moment that he took the oath of office this time, and actually even before, which is blame Biden for everything. And the fact that the Biden administration did not make this a top priority, and that's why they were unable to apprehend this individual. What about some of the encouragement that this individual may have received? We'll find out more about him. And I think that would be very important. This shouldn't be hidden like the Epstein files. And what happens if Cole says he was just doing exactly what Trump told him to do to help stop Congress from certifying the election? And that was the whole goal of the march on the Capitol building on January 6th. And they were successful in delaying for a couple of hours the certification of the election. Her boss and Bongino had said before this arrest and exposure that the entire riot was organized by the FBI. It was some kind of inside job. At this point, will they apologize for that? Especially given the fact that they want to claim credit for apprehending a bomber? Kash Patel had this to say. Well, there's more. And we will get to that. We will also be speaking about that excuse of blaming Biden for everything. There's a piece analyzing the Joe Biden strategy of blame Joe Biden strategy by the Trump administration. That, according to Niall Stanage, appears to be hitting a wall. Why is that happening? It's hitting a wall. It's getting a little bit tired, isn't it? And I'm not sure I agree that the wall is approaching. But there is more approaching, and no one has heard yet a response from President Trump, who usually responds to everything dramatic. What is he going to say about the pipe bomb suspect? And who will he blame? Probably Joe Biden. The bombs were placed there to stop Congress from the certification. That's the whole point. We will get to more coming up on the Medved Show. There's been an informal slogan sort of pulsing through the MAGA universe and the Trump team during his first 11 months as president of the United States. The slogan is BBB, blame Biden best, because Joe Biden is blamed for everything. That phenomenon may be reaching a wall, and not a great big beautiful border wall, but a wall of its limited utility for the Trump team in the future. There's a column in The Hill by Niall Stanage, who is a columnist for The Hill, and he has a reported column called The Memo, which focuses on the Biden White House, the 2024 election, and recent, present, and future national politics. Niall, what is the best evidence that the blaming Biden strategy may have been carried too far?
I think one issue, Michael, is simply President Trump's poll ratings, which have taken a further slide, never having been particularly stellar. The polling average that our partner organization, Decision Desk HQ, has Trump about 11 points underwater. But beyond that, I think in some ways an even more telling part of this trend is various polls that have asked the public who they consider responsible for the economy or for inflation. Now, I don't want to go through every poll there. It's in the column. But basically, pluralities say that President Trump is the person to blame, or I suppose credit, if you think that those things are good, for the situation in which we currently find ourselves. That, to me, suggests that the blaming Biden strategy has a half-life that is it's reaching its sell-by date, I think.
Well, in your column, there is one number that just leaped out at me, partially because it's a Fox News poll. And, of course, despite the fact that Fox News continues to be very friendly to the Trump administration, to say the least, Trump has complained about their polling, and the new Fox News poll that was released last month made for even grimmer reading for Trump, you write. It found that voters say Trump is more responsible than Biden for the state of the economy by an almost 2-to-1 ratio. 62% think Trump is more responsible for the state of the economy, as opposed to 32% who think that Biden is more responsible. This is also not going to the tendency to blame Trump, who is the president of the United States, instead of Biden. That tendency is not going to subside as time passes, is it?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, this is a perennial challenge for presidents. Obviously, the Trump presidency is very unusual, to say the very least, but every president, I think, is confronted with this issue where they want to blame their predecessor for bad stuff. Sometimes that is a valid argument to make, other times less so. Regardless of the fundamental validity of the argument, voters after a certain period of time just expect the president to do something to make their lives better and tend to electorally or politically punish that president if he does not do so. I do think, as well as the specifics around President Trump's personality, I think that trend that I've just described is particularly pronounced when one party has unified control of government, as we see at the moment with Republicans in the majority in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, as well as having President Trump in the White House.
Yes, and then it may be an entirely different situation after the midterm elections. I'm thinking of some of the rhetoric that President Trump specialized in during the recent campaign that he won, a rhetoric about promising a golden age, which is a phrase that he used. Isn't it likely that when we have political commercials in the midterm elections, people will recycle some of those clips of President Trump predicting the world's greatest economy and prosperity as far as the eye can see and everything going astonishingly well?
Yes, I think it's very probable that we'll see some of those clips replayed. Last year, when then candidate Trump was seeking to return to the presidency, he talked about the idea that he would begin to lower prices as soon as he got back into power. He talked as well, of course, about solving the Russia-Ukraine war on day one. We could go through a number of these things that he promised immediate action on. Now, something like the war in Ukraine, you can say, well, that's a very complicated thing. It was always hyperbole to suggest he could fix it on day one. But one of the things that I note in the column, Michael, is that the most recent figures we have for inflation pertain to September, and it points to an annualized inflation rate of 3%, which is exactly where the official inflation rate was in January when President Trump took office. He tries to talk his way around that or to focus on specific items where the price may have gone down. But the national basic inflation rate is unchanged in the latest figures, albeit from September, from where it was at the start of his tenure.
Well, this despite the fact that one of the many, many lies that came out in the cabinet meeting earlier this week was President Trump saying he inherited the highest inflation rate in history. And it wasn't even the highest inflation rate in the Biden administration. It was very far below the highest inflation rate in history. Affordability, do you think Trump is going to do well calling that a hoax issue, as he has?
I don't think he is. I think that is a very pressing and salient issue for many, many millions of Americans. And it is always dangerous in politics to try to persuade the electorate that they're not feeling or experiencing things that, in fact, they are feeling and experiencing. We know affordability is a very big issue for very many people in this country. And to try to belittle those concerns or to suggest that they're somehow politically confected seems highly unlikely to work to me.
Well, I think that is probably accurate. Donald Trump's blame Joe Biden strategy seems to be hitting a wall, and that is explained and explored by Niall Stanage, who is the White House columnist for The Hill. Appreciate the conversation, Niall, and best holiday wishes to you. When we come back on the Medved Show, what happened to the Institute of Peace, a division of government that was created by Congress, but now has a new name? We will get to that and to more coming up on the Medved Show.
Here's a special discount, 50% off just for being a MedHead annual member. Join today at michaelmedved.com.
And on the Michael Medved Show, there is a development in terms of President Trump and foreign policy and leadership, and welcoming other heads of state to and representatives of different governments. The Rwanda-Congo agreement. Trump today is hosting a trilateral meeting with the leaders of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo to sign a peace agreement that he helped to negotiate between the African countries earlier this year. He did that in June to try to bring an end to decades of fighting, but it hasn't stopped violence from continuing between the Congolese government and rebel groups backed by Rwanda. Trump, they write in The Hill, has pointed to his efforts in working to end the conflict and various others as part of his branding of himself as the peace president and his personal campaign to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And he's opened up a new front in that effort, which we will get to in a moment. But first, we're still waiting for President Trump's response to the news of the apprehension of a suspect who planted pipe bombs. And it may be the right guy. It was very difficult to try to apprehend somebody because this was the era of COVID where there are all kinds of people who were wearing masks. And the photographs, the security footage that was actually used to help apprehend this pipe bomber or would-be pipe bomber. Nothing exploded. It was disarmed before anything happened. The Kash Patel spoke and took some of the credit, as he deserves to do because he is the director of the FBI, about the apprehension of the J-6 pipe bomber. Here's what the director, Kash Patel, had to say just a couple of hours ago. Clip 23.
When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve on a case of massive public importance, as it should be. An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested thanks to the brave men and women of the FBI and the interagency.
Okay, would President Trump describe the would-be bomber that way? Now, we have no idea yet what his motivations would be, and it's very confusing because he planted bombs at both the Democratic National Headquarters, where, by the way, had the bomb exploded, there was a visit during the period of time of the January 6th attack by Kamala Harris, who was at that point vice president-elect. But yes, she had been elected. The election had already taken place. No one inaugurated yet. And, of course, they disarmed the bombs in time so that there was no damage or injury. But it's extraordinary to me to hear Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, speaking so directly about the horror that actually occurred on January 6th, about the attack on the federal Capitol. Have we ever heard anything like that from President Trump? Or rather, President Trump glorifying and justifying the people who broke windows and attacked police officers, sent 140 policemen to the hospital, etc. People who he believes were entitled to complete pardons. Patel then blamed the Biden administration somehow for the case having previously gone cold of what happened 5 years ago. Here is Kash Patel, director of the FBI, 22.
As the Attorney General said, we did not discover any new information. What we did, an investigation spearheaded by the deputy director and the ADIC of our Washington field office, brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads, executed multiple legal processes with our U.S. attorney partners, and came to this conclusion today. And that is why we were able to safely secure this individual into custody. Remember, we are dealing with an individual who is alleged to have made bombs. We cannot do this sort of takedown in haste because it endangers the lives of law enforcement. And this FBI will never allow the lives of law enforcement and our prosecutors to be put in jeopardy.
Look, again, very reasonable sentiments. And I think it's extremely important that we get as much information as we can about the suspect and his motivation. And maybe, just maybe, it will persuade some of the people who still believe that the entire attack on the Capitol building was a patriotic act somehow, or not a really disgraceful and destructive violation of any sort of respect for our government or our form of government. Meanwhile, there is this today. It was posted on X, and it's extraordinary. It's a post from the Department of State with a photograph, and the proclamation from the social media is this morning the State Department renamed the former Institute of Peace to reflect the greatest deal maker in our nation's history. Welcome to the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. The best is yet to come. Now, when this is posted by the State Department, you wonder, what the heck is going on? There's a little bit of an explanation in the Washington Post. They write that President Donald Trump is eager to be recognized as a peacemaker. His administration obliged Wednesday by renaming the building that houses the U.S. Institute of Peace in downtown D.C. Donald J. Trump, the name, is now emblazoned in several places on what has often been dubbed the Peace Building, according to eyewitnesses and photos obtained by the Washington Post. And the State Department posted a photo showing Donald J. Trump very clear and in big letters on the front of the building. The move comes after the president's work to settle global conflicts this year and ahead of his plan to host leaders from Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo to sign a White House brokered peace deal between the two countries. That signing is scheduled to take place at the new Donald Trump Institute of Peace today. And it comes amid an uptick in fighting this week in eastern Congo. Trump is also widely expected on Friday to receive a new peace prize from FIFA, the soccer organization. It's a new award created to honor individuals who have helped unite people all over the world in peace, said the nearby Kennedy Center, which it may be involved as well in the Peace Prize of FIFA. So how does this compute with President Trump having tried to dismantle the United States Institute of Peace? We will get to that and other mysteries coming up on the Medved Show.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
What is truly bizarre today is the announcement by the Department of State. Of course, the Department of State run by Marco Rubio, who in the cabinet meeting this week was even more fulsome and enthusiastic in his worshipful praise of President Trump than he usually is. But the statement from the Department of State, and it's official with the U.S. seal and with a photograph underneath, this morning the State Department renamed the former Institute of Peace to reflect the greatest deal maker in our nation's history. Welcome to the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. The best is yet to come. And I guess that best is scheduled for today. The Washington Post reports that the administration's decision to add Trump's name to the United States Institute of Peace building comes after the president issued an executive order in February of this year, so just a couple of months ago, seeking to dismantle the organization, which is an independent nonprofit group created by Congress. The United States Institute of Peace president was removed from the headquarters by law enforcement. In other words, they had to drag him out of this building that now bears Trump's name. And the Trump administration fired nearly all of the USIP's D.C.-based staff. Some diplomats and former staff say they are unsure what the building is used for now, because the U.S. Institute of Peace isn't functioning. The U.S. Institute of Peace and members of its board sued the Trump administration, arguing that the president does not have the authority to fire the group's leadership or staff because the USIP was created by Congress. A federal judge ruled in May that Trump had acted unlawfully, but the order is stayed pending appeal, which is amazing. So he has attached his name on the building, and they've spent some public money to actually put the letters up on the side of this building. Donald J. Trump, it says. He obviously, he's treating this like a hotel, where the biggest thing you see is his name. And Anna Kelly, a White House spokeswoman, wrote in an email yesterday that she sent out that the USIP, the United States Institute of Peace, was once a bloated, useless entity that blew $50 million per year while delivering no peace. Okay, so that was all going to change now that it has Trump's name on it, right? Now, she wrote, the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, which is both beautifully and aptly named after a president who ended 8 wars in less than a year. Now, come on, that's been fact-checked. I mean, I'm really, even the war that he's celebrating the end of this today, the war between Rwanda and the Congo, there's still fighting going on. It's not perfect peace there. Now the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, which is both beautifully and aptly named, she said, after a president who ended 8 wars in less than a year, will stand as a powerful reminder of what strong leadership can accomplish for global stability. In other words, nothing's happening inside the building. We don't know what the offices are being used for. Trump has fired everybody, but the building will be a powerful reminder of the greatness of this particular president. The name change was done one day before the building played host to diplomats with workers on Wednesday morning, installing Trump's name, that's yesterday, in embossed letters near where the United States Institute of Peace had once been engraved. The White House and the State Department have already begun to refer to the building as the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. All remarkable. And meanwhile, it concludes in the Washington Post article that Trump has tried to craft a reputation as an international peacemaker since this term began, touting the peace agreement he helped negotiate between Israel and Hamas over the war in Gaza, and promising to bring peace between Ukraine and Russia as he openly lobbied for a Nobel Peace Prize. The peace between Ukraine and Russia was supposed to be in his first day in office. Hasn't quite happened. Other global leaders and advocacy groups, including some seeking to curry favor with the president, have praised his work to settle conflicts and called for him to be honored with the Nobel Peace Prize and other awards. And apparently he is getting a FIFA award in Boston from the soccer organization that is coming up. Meanwhile, the activities in the Caribbean, which hasn't yet been renamed, but it could be any time, the activities in the Caribbean continue to attract all kinds of concern. Today, Admiral Frank Mitchell Bradley answered questions from lawmakers as he briefed them on what exactly has happened with these very bloody attacks on what were ostensibly fishing boats. But the U.S. government says they were actually drug boats taking illegal drugs toward the United States. The GOP Representative Mike Turner of Ohio, conservative Republican and a strong supporter of President Trump and MAGA, appeared on MS Now, the former MSNBC, and had this to say, clip 18.
The President of the United States has said, in his words, a matter of days, there'll likely be strikes on land in Venezuela. Let's get your opinion on that. Are there legal issues there? What sort of oversight role should Congress be playing with that if this were to become an even greater operation?
Congress has made it clear, and members of Congress have made it clear that the administration has not provided us with sufficient information as to what the administration is doing to have the support of Congress for any actions inside Venezuela.
And then he added this about what's going on, clip 7.
And in this instance, of course, what's also so concerning here is, as you know, and as you guys have reported, this activity that's happening in the Caribbean where they're hitting these boats, these individuals, if they were captured and tried and convicted, they would be guilty, if they were found guilty, of criminal activity for which they're not subject to capital punishment. They would be put in jail. They wouldn't be subject to capital punishment. These people are being killed, not held and put in prison. So the concern of whether or not the intelligence is accurate, whether we actually know what's happening, who these people are, is very, very concerning when you have the highest bar of the capital punishment is being executed here.
I think that is a very important point and good for Congressman Turner in making it. In other words, even if you caught and arrested these people, they could be prosecuted for drug running, which is against the law and obviously against the national interest. But we don't impose the death penalty without basically legal procedures. And the idea that over 80 people have now been zapped by the U.S. and celebrated by Pete Hegseth. He even did a comic book for kids glorifying the firing down by a particular turtle creature who's firing at the people below who are presumably drug smugglers. All of this is clearly political. Right now, drug smugglers not popular, and they shouldn't be. But what is the deal with the pardon of Juan Hernandez, the former president of Honduras? Got freed from and pardoned from 45 years in prison? It's an extraordinary series of contradictions. Meanwhile, what about calling a particular ethnic group here in the United States garbage? Is that going to have consequences? Probably not in this greatest nation on God's green earth.